Hi everyone on YouTube. I'm here today with Wil Kemp. He's known for driving the Savannah train. He's also a massive snake and reptile enthusiast.
So I do come from a background being really enthusiastic about Australian reptiles and Australian wildlife in general, but I love my reptiles. And I was lucky enough to go and work in the zoo industry in Queensland for about 5 years. Oh sorry, 10 years, I lied. That obviously got me to really build on my knowledge, build on my skills, and just really build on this love that I have for Australian reptiles. But about 10 years ago now I got out of that and still in the tourism game, but these days I'm driving a train, as you said, the Savannah Lander, and while I'm driving it I've got a microphone so I can do a little bit of a running commentary and tell everyone about the land and the ecology and the wildlife we see along the way.
If anyone wants to follow on social media, he finds heaps of reptiles on the tracks.
So this guy here, most of my animals have come to me for one reason or another. Very few of them are something I've actually set out to get a hold of. I'm a little bit of a, I don't know, like a retirement home for a lot of animals.
Yeah.
But this particular olive python was actually given to me by a friend who moved to London and she couldn't take him with her. I wasn't really that into pythons to start with. I'd done a lot of pythons and I was really into my elapids. But I thought he was a pretty cool snake, something good for the family to learn a bit more about snakes. Obviously with taipans and brown snakes, I can't really give them to the kids or to the misses. So getting something like this I thought would be good for the family. And I actually ended up getting him for my partner and gave him to her for her birthday.
Oh, that's romantic.
Look, I got her some earrings as well, so, you know. But she was a little bit set back, but she likes him. She handles him as much as she can, but over the last sort of 6 years since we've had him, he's grown a lot and he's getting to be a bit of a handful for her. She's not quite as big as me. She still likes to get him out, but she likes me to be around at the same time. I have been grabbed by him twice and both times it was my own fault. I do a bit of wildlife caring. I just finished looking after a sugar glider, noticed that his water was empty. I went to change the water and my hands smell like sugar glider.
I've been there, definitely been there.
And the other time was I was feeding and I was game. Instead of using tongs, I was using my hands and he grabbed that instead. So when he does grab out of a feed response and when he constricts, it's amazing how strong he is.
Yeah, because you look at them and they look pretty slow, but particularly the olives, as soon as there's food involved, they're super fast.
Yeah, they're unreal. I don't have a total length of this guy. I've got no idea how long he is actually.
At least 3.5.
He'd have to be, yeah. And he's got to be around 20 to 25 kilos.
He's chunky.
We do feed him roosters.
Yeah, I don't know, they're just a bit more switched on than some of the other pythons.
Yeah, I think they're cool. They seem to be quite inquisitive.
And I'm a lot skinnier than you, so I'm probably like almost meal size.
Yeah, definitely get one of your arms down easily. But yeah, apart from that, like those two feed response bites, he's been a fantastic snake. We've had him.
Yeah.
Good with Mel, the partner, and yeah, behaves himself usually. But he has got a wife in there and she's got a very different attitude on it.
Oh, yep. Say no more.
Anyway, we'll go and stick him back and
no worries.
Get some more.
Now we've got every bogan reptile keeper's dream out.
You've got to have it just to say that you've got number one, eh? Right.
Yeah.
You've got it.
You got it.
But Sammy here, I call her Sammy, it's not a very original name, I know. But Sammy the inland taipan, she's 15 years old. And she's been with me for each and every one of those 15 years. Sammy here has actually been with me longer than I've been a father.
Wow.
She's been with me longer than I've been a partner. So she's sort of like got a lot of sentimental value to me.
Yeah. I've met Sammy before. I know she?
Yeah, she.
Yeah, she's a pretty chilled out snake. Oh, I've heard a lot of debate about inland taipans, where they're really unpredictable. I've certainly I've met a few, particularly wild ones, that are a bit touchy. But what do you find with inland?
Mate, well, I've never seen a wild one yet. So you'll want to, that exclusive group of people that has been lucky enough to come across them. But in my experience, like I've worked with a lot of captive animals and I have seen some different temperaments in my time. But I'd definitely say on a whole, I tend to trust these guys more than I do the cousins, the coastal taipans. I mean, obviously you've heard of that name, the fierce snake. I don't think they deserve that at all, because I reckon there's a lot of other species out there that I would consider to be more fierce than this guy here.
I definitely agree with that. Even when they are being fierce, it's the same thing with the coastals. They'll just lull you into that false sense of security. Just when they go, they go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's more, I don't know. I know they've obviously got the venom to back up, extremely fast and well coordinated strike, and they've got speed and strength on their side as well. But I don't know. It's like they're just a bit easier to work with. They seem to, well, I think they sort of get to know the routine, they get to know the smells around the place, possibly even get to know the handler.
I'd agree with that.
And I guess because she's been with me for so long, you know, I do find her to be a rather trustworthy snake. And, you know, when I get people come over like yourself who want to have a handle, you know, I'm happy for that to happen, because I know that you're competent, and I know that she's a easygoing snake to be able to do that with.
Funnily enough, this is not the first time I've had a taipan go between my legs.
No, I've seen that video. So she was actually Venom Supplies from South Australia originally as a juvenile, and what Venom Supplies did for us, I was the reptile keeper at Rockhampton Zoo, and we wanted to develop a really nice comprehensive snake show. We wanted to focus on reptiles of the central Queensland area, but we just thought we needed to get an inland taipan because of the status, you know, they're number one.
Oh,
definitely. That we kept getting people talk to us about. Which one's the world's most toxic snake? So the guys at Venom Supplies, Nathan and Luke, were really cool, and they got this little hatchling. They sent her up to us at Rocky Zoo, and she was the star of the show. Like, she was amazing. We had record attendance. She was the first inland taipan to be kept in Rockhampton, or at the Rocky Zoo, and I think she's the last inland taipan to be kept at the zoo as well. But lots of people used to come check her out. And while we were doing the snake show for about 5 years, eventually I got a job offer up here in Cairns, and when I gave my notice, the zoo decided to offload a few of the snakes, Sammy being one of them. I asked if I could take her, and they were more than happy than that, so she's been part of the family ever since. She's been bred multiple times with a couple of different males in her lifetime, and a lot of people around Australia have got offspring from Sam. Hartley's Creek Croc Adventures. You head out there.
Ah, yeah, and that's another really relaxed snake, isn't it?
Yeah. So her juveniles are out there on display as well. Hey, mate. World's most toxic snake daycare centre. So tell us a bit about this one. Mate, this guy, so he's about 12 months old, this little coastal, and he came to me from a mate of mine who bred a bunch. And I don't know, felt as though he owed me a coastal. I have enough, but he's like, no, please, mate, take one of mine. So he's a little male. I really like his coloration. He's quite a gorgeous little animal.
You should go straight into the hole. I'm always just, now, definitely not anything personal, but I reckon the most dangerous times of working with snakes is working with someone you just have to work with.
Oh, definitely. Whip snakes for you.
Absolutely. Oh, that is a cracker.
Yeah.
Now that's Vestigiata, isn't it?
Yeah, Vestigiata, lesser black whip snake. I was very lucky. A mate of mine has had the contract to catch snakes up in Darwin, and was lucky enough to come across a gravid Vestigiata. So she laid eggs in the bag overnight. He let her go, incubated the eggs, and he knew I was into them, so he sent me a couple. These are the first whip snakes I've ever had. and they've been a challenge. Like this one will be going on, be close to 3 years old, but for the first 2 years I had to force feed it.
Yeah.
Sure, it probably would have eaten skinks quite willingly, but I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to risk introducing any sort of worms or parasites or anything. And honestly, it was pretty easy. Just grab it behind the back of the head, shove a pinky in its mouth, and it just did the rest. And these days, it's a guts. It eats by itself. I'm trying to be a bit lean with it. Don't feed it too much, because I've heard these guys in captivity from eating rodents can end up with fatty lipomas and nasty looking livers and bits and pieces like that. So I try and keep it on the leaner side of things. It does have a sister inside, and she's still being assist fed. She's a fair bit smaller than him. From what I know, and I could be wrong, when this goes out you might have comments in the YouTube video, but from what I know, the only person in Australia with them. I haven't come across anyone else with these guys yet.
Oh, that's awesome. So you saw it here first.
So definitely, so far, out of all my leopard bites that I've had, and when I say all my leopard bites, it's only a few, but definitely these guys are the most painful. There was a couple of little nips there when I was force feeding, and just an immediate intense pain, like you've been bitten by a wasp or a hornet or something like that. Bit of swelling and sort of localised pain around the area for the next day or so, but nothing that I was terribly worried about. No nausea, nothing like that. But the little bit of research I've done on these, I don't think there's been a great deal recorded as far as bites go. I think if someone's been bitten by one of these, by the time they end up in the hospital and they try and give a description to the doctor, you know, it's a brown coloured snake that's about that long. So
yeah,
it could be a bunch of different things.
And how often do you see these guys? I've found a fair few out in the Gulf country, which you're quite familiar with.
These guys are very common in the communities that I work in. We do see them on the railway. In fact, I had combating males in front of the train right on the railway one day, and I didn't stop the train in time. I ran over one male and killed him, chopped him in half. When I went back to see what was going on, the other male was still trying to kick his ass. Even though he didn't have a head, he was gone. And how I managed to do that, I don't know.
Oh well.
They are very common, and he's trying to. There he is.
Yep. Oh, that's a boy.
Yeah. So I'll stick him back in with that.
Oh well, at least you you helped one of the males out.
Yeah.
He's probably just about to lose the fight too.
Left sperm plugs.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
So maybe you did enjoy that a little bit more than what I thought he did. So Steve, the bigger leopards are cool, but I really like smaller ones. I like smaller leopards. I just find them really interesting. This little guy's kind of living up to his name at the moment. This is a curl snake. He's opaque, so he's probably a little bit sensitive about the world.
These guys get overlooked so much by herpers.
They do. I think they're a really cool little snake. I found one a couple of nights ago on the Harvey's Range Road, and unfortunately the lady who was driving, Sarah, didn't stop in time and ran over him, so we had to euthanize him.
And now you're throwing her under the bus.
I am. She's a paramedic, so I hope snakes are the only thing she runs over. But these little guys, I think they are really overlooked. Not just as far as keeping them goes. Like I found these fellas to be really challenging as well. A bit different to, I guess, taipans or red bellies or something where you can pretty much put them in an enclosure and they're just going to start eating for you. These guys did require a bit of assist feeding as well when I first got them. So yeah, a little bit of a challenge to get going when I first got them. They had heads on them like Tic Tac, so I was chopping the the legs off pinkies to feed them, but these days they are gutses, and once again, being a lizard eater naturally, I try and keep them a bit lean when it comes to mice. I don't want them to get fat. I have worked with them in other captive situations in zoos where they were like covered in fatty lipomas, and it was just standard to feed them, twice a week sort of thing, so I'm not going to be doing that. Did receive a bite from this fella about 12 months ago, purely from my own fault. I couldn't find my tongs when I went to feed him, and little feed response, he came out, grabbed me on the finger. Being a smaller lappet, I think a lot of us shrug bites from these little guys off, and I certainly did. But it ended up, I had a vestigial arm. It just didn't do anything. My arm, there was no nausea, no vomiting or diarrhea or anything like that. There was pain in the arm. The next morning when I woke up, underneath my armpit, the lymph glands were swollen, the arm itself was quite painful, and I couldn't make a fist, I couldn't raise it up above my head. It just like flopped to my side.
Couldn't do the YMCA?
No, there was no YMCA for me on YMCA Sunday. I was a bit upset about that. So
that's interesting though.
It stayed like that for about 6 days. Spoke to a mate of mine out at JCU, Jamie Seymour, about it, and don't worry, I know a lot of you at home are probably thinking the same thing. He called me all the effing idiots he could lay his hand on, because he told me, you know what to do when you get bitten by a snake, or you know what to do, and not worrying about it and going to bed is not what you do. He said, despite the fact that, you know, you're a big bloke and that there's a very small chance that the snake's going to do any real damage to you, he said it's valuable data. These little blokes like this, being a small brown elapid, once again, someone gets bitten by one of these, they turn up to the hospital says, what are you bitten by? Small brown elapid. That doesn't really help them out, and we don't get any data recorded from curl snake bites. So he said at the very least it would have been really good data to have. A guy my size, with how I felt for 6 days, I'd hate to see a child get bitten, or someone elderly, someone with an underlying health condition.
I think there's been one death from the pseudogenus.
Okay,
am I right?
I'll
have to look that one up. But
I did see a gentleman quite a few years ago on a documentary he did, got tagged, and he was a bit proud about getting tagged. He did admit to it, and next thing, it was footage of him in intensive care in a pretty bad way. So yeah, little lapids, I think they're awesome, but not to be underestimated.
Definitely not.